What's up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 282 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, and this is the Hot Tags edition of the week, where I'm going to be breaking down some of the current events, rumors, news, gossip, speculation, dirt sheet talk, whatever the hell else I want to talk about that's happened over the past couple of days in the world of professional wrestling. And I've been trying to kind of keep this going a little bit with adding as many topics as possible, even if it's a really quick thing that doesn't really need too much to talk about here. So let's go ahead and start off with one that really is as simple as you can get. Mick Foley finally underwent his hip surgery the other day, so the basic thing to say is that we wish him well, and that we hope that this ends up turning into a situation where his mobility and quality of life and all that other kind of stuff is significantly better. Because that's what you got to hope for with surgeries and stuff, right? It's there to fix a problem. And we know that Foley's been looking really good as of late. I mean, he lost his weight and he got to a better spot when it comes to like DDP yoga and everything, is what I remember him saying that he was doing at least a little bit. So hopefully this is another step forward. Awesome. And we've got Kurt Angle on Monday Night Raw now, so he's able to rest at home and kind of just do some other projects and stuff, and I'm kind of interested to see where he's going to go from here and what he's going to do in the future. So, thumbs up on the hip surgery, Foley. Hopefully you're doing well. Another thing that we can talk about that's something we kind of mentioned a little bit on the mailbag is that apparently, according to these dirt sheets and, different websites and different reports, and, you can always sort of take these things with a grain of salt because you never know exactly which things are true, which things are false, which things are blown out of proportion and stuff. But you can apply that to all the stuff we're going to talk about today. The one thing I wanted to talk about here, though, that was something kind of harkening back to what we mentioned before, though, was that apparently the reason why we didn't get the draft this year and we got the Superstar shakeup is because Vince McMahon just doesn't like the word draft anymore. And he does this a lot, according to a lot of different reports, where it's like, you can't use the word belt. You can't say professional wrestler. Don't use, the phrase like, he's gonna beat him tomorrow. It's gonna be, he's gonna destroy him tomorrow. And like, it's like a lot of grandiose terms and a lot of, that makes it sound old. Let's get rid of the numbers for WrestleMania because people think that that's old. Which that type of philosophy does apply to certain things. I mean, we know that there's psychology that gets behind things, and there's subliminal advertising, and everything from you're better to pick up a date if you're wearing a blue shirt if you're a guy than if you're wearing like a yellow shirt, like, crazy stuff like that. But some of the times when this kind of stuff happens, it makes you wonder if it's not just some weird personal quirk. And since he's got the final say, he just says, like, no, we're not going to have 1% milk anymore in catering. We're going to have 2%, and it's got to be in a purple logo, that it would be like, all right, I guess we'll do it. That kind of thing. That's the kind of stuff that's kind of crazy, though. And with, like, the numbering of WrestleMania, to me, that makes no sense. Because the Super Bowl does the numbering. And nobody gives a shit about the Super Bowl being old. The older something gets, the more prestige it has. And WrestleMania, they don't shy away from saying WrestleMania 33. So the fact that it doesn't have number on the logo is not going to stop anybody from changing their mind about something. If they think that 33 WrestleMania means that they can't have like anything fresh, then they don't follow the product anyway. And then they're not going to watch it. So who gives a shit? And something with the draft is sort of like, well, that is a draft. That's what they're doing. And the NFL has a draft, and the NBA has a draft, and, like that kind of stuff is like standardized. So it's weird that he would be like, draft, that's a word that we can't use anymore. Fuck that word. Weird thing there. But do you guys like the draft better, or do you like the Superstar shakeup? Because I had mentioned before that I like the draft better, but I like if they would have kept the Superstar shakeup for down the line as a quote-unquote randomized lottery. That would be my pitch for the whole thing. But do you like that we have the Superstar shakeup, or do you like the draft? Whatever the case may be, drop your comments below and tell me what you think, and do the same thing for all the other things that we're going to be talking about here. So just do a timestamp. It's always a lot easier for me with, like trying to figure out what people are talking about and everything. So let's move on to another topic. We have talked about this a lot for the past couple of weeks, and it seems like it's not going to go away for a little bit. So let's talk a little more on Mauro Ranallo. More on, I'm not saying more on Mauro Ranallo. I'm saying more on the subject. Although that'd be kind of funny if they would have done that over the course of his career. If he would have stayed in WWE and it would have been like Moron Ranallo or something, like more Ranallo. He has said that he is definitely leaving WWE and that has nothing to do with JBL. Huh. Is this a shush order where he can't say the truth? Because we've been hearing some reports about that. Is it true and JBL isn't at fault, but everybody just did a shit job trying to keep the story from spinning that way? Or maybe is this a situation where Mauro couldn't handle the stress of the WWE job in general? Because when all this kind of stuff happened, it's WrestleMania season. That's the busiest time of the year. So maybe he panicked. And maybe he's quitting because of, the bipolar reaction to it, kind of. It's very kind of interesting because this puts a new twist in the mix. If he would have said, yeah, I'm leaving WWE, I didn't get along with some people, and there's some tension, and we just figured it would be best to part ways, then you know that he's talking about JBL. But he says that it's not anything to do with JBL. So either it's some kind of a deal that they got to where they were like, please shut up, do not say anything about JBL, or you void the contract that we're signing, or it legitimately doesn't have anything to do with JBL. And then that gets even more interesting. The shush order, that's a kind of standard NDA type of a thing, but if it's not JBL, then what was the problem? Very interesting. And hopefully there's going to be some more reports about this and some more clarification and everything like that, because now I want to know more than I did even before. So, which probably that means that that we probably won't get any more information now that I'm saying that, because it's always like you want to know more and then you never get anything else. I don't know. So let's talk about the draft again, actually. That's another thing on here. Sort of. Not this particular draft, but Cody Rhodes had said a little bit earlier in some kind of an interview that the original plans for him in the first brand split thing that we just got last year, when he was still, part of the company and still working in some capacity, that they were going to have Stardust on one brand and Cody Rhodes on the other one. But one person shot it down, and he didn't say who, but at least I read into it as it being Vince McMahon said no. And that kind of sucks, because not only do I really like Cody Rhodes, not only do I think that he is very underrated in his WWE career, and I was really kind of hoping that with this brand split that he would have been one of those main guys that could have had a world title run. Because let's face it, Cody Rhodes at one point was essentially just a shy underneath main event talent. And they ended up not pushing him, and I can understand to a certain extent why they didn't over some of the other people, because you look at Cody Rhodes and you look at Roman Reigns, and it's like Vince McMahon's going to like the big guy more. But he has it in him. And with the brand split, he would have been somebody that they could have easily put on SmackDown. He could have had some great matches with AJ Styles, and he still, to this day, could have some great matches with a lot of the newer talent. Shinsuke Nakamura, he could end up having a hell of a match with. Ty Dillinger, he could have a great match with, so on and so forth. But I think that this kind of an idea is the type of innovation and fun that we should have seen more of with this whole brand split. And we should still see more of this in WWE. Because you got somebody with multiple characters, why not take advantage of that and have them play multiple characters? We did it with the Royal Rumble with Mick Foley, and that was great. It's one of the best Royal Rumble moments that we've ever had. The Stardust character wasn't really all that great, but having Stardust on one brand, Cody Rhodes on another, and then even better, how great would that have been when it comes to Survivor Series? Because what if both guys got on their team? How do you have Cody Rhodes and Goldust, or Stardust, on opposite teams? Do you have him pull like a Roddy Piper where he splits down paint on one side and not on the other? And then do you have him he gets tagged in from one side and he's fighting himself or some kind of crap like that? It could be a little bit of fun. So disappointed to see that didn't come to fruition. Disappointed that Cody Rhodes is still not in WWE anymore, because that sucks. Really want him back. Let's spin the wheel on our list of topics here. Round and round it goes, and it lands at table for 3 with Shawn Michaels, AJ Styles, and Kevin Nash. That just happened about like 45 minutes ago from when I'm recording this. So that really wasn't as good as I was hoping that it would be. And it's mostly because I went into it going, oh shit, my favorite of all time, and one of my favorites on the roster right now, and a guy that a lot of people dislike, but I was always a big fan of. I was pretty interested in to see what they had to say, but it mostly turned into Shawn Michaels saying, here's the reasons why I'll never wrestle AJ Styles, and that's disappointing. And Kevin Nash going, yo, this beef's great, kind of thing. There was one interesting takeaway, though, so if you wanted to know like some fun stories or whatever like that, you should obviously check out the episode yourself if you have the time, but the one major takeaway that I had from this that I was like, that's pretty interesting, was when they were talking about the Too Sweet, the little wolf hand gesture that everybody does. And they were kind of doing the whole, like, you know, did it piss you off that we were doing it because you guys originated it and so on and so forth. And they mentioned that the way that they originally got it was from Sean Waltman. He had seen in a bar one day a Turkish mobster do it. So this all spawns from the Turkish mafia, which is kind of cool. So, pretty interesting story. Other than that, it's kind of skippable. I mean, you don't really need to check it out, but it's table for 3, and if you like that kind of stuff, I like it. So it's a half an hour sitting down, listening to some wrestlers talk about some interesting topics. So, you know, what else do we have here? Let's get into a couple different topics that are going to sort of merge together a little bit, and that's going to be easier to sort of talk about them one by one. Bobby Roode's Glorious theme was apparently originally created for Shinsuke Nakamura, which I don't see that at all. Like, certain things I can kind of get, like when we have the CM Punk music that he used to go by, This Fire Burns, I think it's what it was called, that was written for Randy Orton. And even though it doesn't fit Randy Orton, a lot of me kind of thinks maybe the only reason why I think that is because we haven't seen Randy Orton come out to that music before. And you associate people with their music, and that's why when Kurt Angle first popped up, I was like, why is the Patriots music playing? It was the Patriots music. And Sergeant Slaughter's for like 1 week or so. But the Glorious theme for Nakamura, like, Nakamura has so much energy, and that theme is so, not bland, because it's not. It's a great theme. But the tempo is just wildly different. And you got a guy that comes out, and it's like the strobe light, and, you know, he's doing whatever that hand thing is. It makes it look like he just got electrocuted, or he's got some kind of weird arthritic problem. And you compare that to the Glorious theme, where Bobby Roode basically just stands there, and every once in a while he turns around and his robe says Glorious and stuff like that. I really don't see the connection that they would have thought that would have been Nakamura's theme. Do you guys? Can you see him coming out with that? I really don't at all. And now the previous interviews that we had where Bobby Roode said the theme that he had was originally going to go for somebody else, but he didn't specify who. I was thinking that this was going to be like maybe a Ty Dillinger, maybe who else did we have around that time that was in there? I'm drawing a blank on some of the other people like that, but I had thought that was the case. And then when we had a couple of weeks ago, Shinsuke Nakamura was talking about his theme, and he was saying, they originally showed me another thing, and I didn't really like it, and then we got the one that we have now, and now it works and all that. I just assumed it was some sort of generic thing like Wesley Blake's theme, where it was some other theme maybe. Like, there's a couple other higher-paced themes in NXT and in the main roster and stuff, and I was like, well, maybe it was just one of those. I don't know, maybe it was like DIY's theme or something. But the Glorious one in Nakamura, I really don't see it. It's just, I'm trying to picture it in my brain, like how he would have come out, and what would he have done, you know? I don't picture it. But that brings us into another topic here. Shinsuke Nakamura was apparently supposed to be not only wrestling at WrestleMania, but winning the Intercontinental Championship from The Miz, of all things. Which is, like, at first, you start to go, how does this unpack? And when more and more things come into the light, you start to see that this was a setup that it looked like it was going to be at like around maybe the Survivor Series time or so. Apparently the reason why we didn't get these next couple of matches that I'm going to be talking about is John Cena's proposal changed one thing, which it's a domino effect. You change one, another one changes, another one changes, another one changes, because it's a puzzle that you need to put together with all the different pieces. Apparently Samoa Joe was not one of them, because even in this scenario, I still had never come across a single thing that mentioned what Samoa Joe would have been doing. But this is the lineup that apparently should have happened had John Cena not said that he was going to propose to Nikki Bella, and then they wanted to do it for WrestleMania. The Undertaker would have beaten AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble and won the WWE Championship. First off, I'm pissed that didn't happen, because that's the only time we would have been able to see AJ Styles versus Undertaker. Second, I'm pissed that didn't happen, because I thought that was going to happen, and I kept saying that I wanted it to happen, and I would have been right. Third, I am pissed that didn't happen, because it means The Undertaker would have had another WWE Championship, and I always think that he hasn't had that as many times as he should have. So, Taker would have won the title, then apparently AJ Styles would have won the Elimination Chamber, which is kind of surprising to me, but I don't know exactly how that would have gone down 100%. I'm assuming that John Cena would have pinned The Undertaker in the Elimination Chamber, and that's what it would have kind of led to their whole match, because The Undertaker was going to end up facing John Cena at WrestleMania, not Roman Reigns. And at the same token, Roman Reigns then isn't facing The Undertaker. He would have probably ended up facing Braun Strowman. So that makes more sense now, because they looked like they were building up to the Braun Strowman thing, and they did that at Fastlane, and then now they're picking it back up for Payback. It seems like that's what it would have been, is Braun Strowman wouldn't have fought Roman Reigns at Fastlane. They would have waited until WrestleMania. They would have had some kind of a match, and either that would have been for the Universal Championship, or it would have been for the United States Championship. Then, of course, Jericho and Owens were still together, and a couple other things were still probably the same or whatever, but Randy Orton would have apparently still won the Royal Rumble, and he would have fought AJ Styles at WrestleMania, which that's a match that I would be really interested in checking out, and hope that they do that down the future. That means that Bray Wyatt wouldn't have had his match with Randy Orton. So what would Bray Wyatt have done? Would it have been Bray Wyatt versus Luke Harper, or Bray Wyatt versus Luke Harper versus Eric Rowan maybe in a triple threat? Or maybe he would have been in the Battle Royal, or they would have had some other kind of feud set up for him. I highly doubt it, but maybe. Then Daniel Bryan would have had his feud with The Miz continue, and that wouldn't have had anything to do with Shane McMahon, because remember, Shane McMahon doesn't fight AJ Styles because AJ Styles is facing Randy Orton. So if he's facing Randy Orton, Shane McMahon, what is he doing? Well, I had pitched the idea before of Shane McMahon fighting The Miz on behalf of Daniel Bryan. Their idea was Daniel Bryan and The Miz would have continued a feud, and he would have picked some kind of a representative to challenge The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship, and it would have been Shinsuke Nakamura. That also means not only that we not get the Cena-Miz match, which means that it opens up the Undertaker-Cena thing, and it all snowballs like that, but it also means, would Baron Corbin and Dean Ambrose still have fought? Because the thing that was combining their feud together was the Intercontinental Championship, and that wouldn't have been the case because the Intercontinental Championship is with Shinsuke Nakamura. So basically what this boils down to is the WrestleMania 33 card that we should have gotten a couple months ago and could have gotten was Big Show versus Shaq, Seth Rollins versus Triple H, Jericho versus Chris Owens. Probably some of the other matches would have changed or stayed the same, the women's championship matches and stuff like that. Undertaker versus John Cena, AJ Styles versus Randy Orton, Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns, The Miz versus Shinsuke Nakamura. That seems like a good card too. So I don't know which one I would have liked better. I think in the grand scheme of things, I do appreciate some of the ways that we ended up going, but that AJ Styles Undertaker match didn't happen, and I'm sad about that. So maybe I would go with this. Maybe, I don't know. Everything is better in hindsight. So if we, in a parallel universe, that thing happens and we're sitting there going, damn it, we could have had Undertaker drop the yard to Roman Reigns and that would have been better and whatever. Who knows? We're never going to know because we can't go back in time and we can't change it. And if by some chance we did, then, I don't know, we'd have some kind of a show on the CW about all of our superpowers. But another thing to talk about when it comes to WrestleMania and the plans that didn't come to fruition and everything is the reasons why Shaq didn't have his match against Big Show. Finally, he's talked about it on a podcast with a couple other people. I don't know them. I don't know the podcast. Kincaid and Gas and I don't know who those guys are. So I just read a transcript about it from another website, so I don't know, like the context, if I'm missing anything, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You always got to put that kind of crap out there so people don't think that you're taking this with, like, the specifications of it and stuff. But he had said, and I'm going to read you the quotes that were in the transcript, because they kept playing. First, they said it was me and Big Show. Then they said it was going to be 3-3. Then they canceled it. So when they canceled it, I made other arrangements. And then they tried to call back and tried to get it done. And I just said, I'm not going to do it. They messed it up. So this guy Kincaid said, and my theory all along, this is not his commentary, I have a hard time believing that somebody would read a script where he would lose in anything. And Shaquille O'Neal says, so you're saying I didn't want to lose? It's for the kids, John. I would have lost for the kids. For the kids. Which is like that. I have to imagine that was kind of funny. It's like, it's for the kids. It's all for the kids. And he says, you're competitive. And he says, then another guy says, the man did Kazam for God's sake. And he says, exactly, yes, I would have lost. So that doesn't necessarily imply that he would have lost the match necessarily, but at least that he would have been, according to him, in his, in another world, if this would have happened, I would have been okay with losing, that kind of a thing. But he brings up the points of, first they said it was him and Big Show. That's what we assumed that they were going to be doing. And then they said that it was going to be 3-3. So Shaquille O'Neal would have had two people in the match that would have joined him, and Big Show would have had two people on his side. So who would it have been? That is very interesting. There's not a lot of people that I think would have been applicable in that situation, because some of the other people that would have been big enough for the spot might not have actually been big enough for that type of a match, based off of some other matches that they had going on, or some other people were too big for that, because you're not going to take, say, I don't know, like Randy Orton and AJ Styles. We're just mentioning them. They're in the WWE Championship scene. They're not going to dumb themselves down a little bit to be a part of the celebrity match. But maybe that would have been where Enzo and Cass would have teamed up with Shaquille O'Neal, and maybe Big Show would have had Gallows and Anderson. That could have been pretty interesting. Now, Gallows and Anderson had the tag team titles at the time, but maybe they would not have won those titles, and it would have been Cesaro and Sheamus and the New Day and whatever, and the Hardy Boys bringing in that point. Maybe the Hardy Boys weren't even in talks at that point when they were doing the 3-3, because this could be going back all the way from a year ago. You got to figure the Big Show and Shaq stuff started at WrestleMania last year, not this year, and they've been training for it. So they could have had, maybe in like SummerSlam time, it could have been 3-3. Or maybe he's getting his story mixed up and maybe it was going to be 5-5 or something like that. I don't know. But if they did cancel it back and forth and, they didn't really give him a set like, yes, we really want to do this or whatever, then I can kind of understand Shaq's point of view and just kind of being like, all right, guys, come on. Like, now I made some other plans. Now you're trying to get me to back out of it. I understand his point of view if that's the case. And knowing at least from his point of view that he would have been okay with losing, I like that even better. Because I still think it would have been good to just have Big Show versus Shaq. And I would have been fine with either of them winning the match. And it would have been a good send-off for Big Show, I think. Outside of the fact that I still think that Braun Strowman and Big Show need to have that. That should be his retirement. And maybe he just did it on Raw the other week. I don't really know. I hope that's not the case because it's not as good of a send-off as Big Show deserves. But maybe, I don't know. We'll see about that in the future. But it seems like this basically means that the deal with Shaq and Big Show is never going to happen again. And it's not the end of the world either. They had their moment at WrestleMania in the Battle Royal, and that was kind of fun. And it will just be chalked up to another one of those things where history never got a chance to do it. Because you tell me that I could get Big Show versus Shaq or Undertaker versus Sting, I'm going to pick Undertaker Sting. You never know what you're going to get in the future, and that's going to be my transition for another topic here. The future for SmackDown Live is apparently resting on Baron Corbin. Reports are saying that he is set for a major push as not just a top heel, but the top heel on SmackDown. There are a couple of plans for some different feuds going over in the future. The AJ Styles Randy Orton one is one of them. Eventually, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura is something that they are thinking about, at least right now, for WrestleMania. But while everybody is going nuts about Jinder Mahal getting a title shot against Randy Orton, we should be focusing more on Baron Corbin. Some betting sites are putting Baron Corbin at the number one highest ranked, most likely contender for the Money in the Bank. And if that happens, then we should see Baron Corbin against Randy Orton. Either he's going to cash in on Randy Orton and win the title, or he's at least going to feud with him. So I am looking at this in the position that I don't think Baron Corbin is going to win the WWE Championship this year. But if we get Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles, which I think is, it's not a guarantee because anything can change, but it's something that is a pretty solid guess. John Cena is on SmackDown, and we know that John Cena is always going to have some good match at WrestleMania unless he's injured or something like that. And if you look at the roster on SmackDown right now, there's some people that could be contenders to do different things, but John Cena's had some feuds with a bunch of different people. John Cena's had his AJ Styles feud. That's not going to be a WrestleMania one. John Cena's been against Randy Orton. Nobody wants to see that again. Dolph Ziggler and John Cena, I think, is great, but I can't imagine them pushing Dolph Ziggler to that point around WrestleMania. Baron Corbin and Kevin Owens are the two main people from SmackDown specifically that I think that we could see fight John Cena, because we already had Rusev, and I can't imagine it being Luke Harper or like Kane's not going to be around, that kind of a thing. So we've seen the Kevin Owens feud, and I think that that's going to be applicable to somebody else instead. And we'll get down to that somewhere down the line or whatever. But the Baron Corbin thing this is where it's interesting. Do we get Randy Orton, John Cena, Baron Corbin, and Kevin Owens in some sort of combination at WrestleMania? Or do we get maybe John Cena versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and we get Randy Orton versus his pick of Baron Corbin or Kevin Owens? Where we see the feuds coming over the next couple of weeks, couple of months, that's going to be a big game changer, I think, because I do imagine John Cena is going to feud with Baron Corbin and Kevin Owens. Randy Orton is going to feud with Baron Corbin and Kevin Owens. That's going to happen, but we have SummerSlam, Survivor Series, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and then the side pay-per-views. So do they do John Cena, Baron Corbin, and then we get like Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, and then when we switch over for WrestleMania, we get, say, John Cena against like a Roman Reigns type, and then we get Baron Corbin versus Randy Orton? That's what I think might end up happening. So mark your calendars that I said this around that time. But the reports, if they're true, say that he has more supporters than even Braun Strowman does, which you would think is not the case because of the way that they're booking Braun Strowman versus the way that they're booking Baron Corbin, where Corbin didn't win that Intercontinental Championship, and he's not in the title picture right now for either championship. He's close to it, but he's not quite. So that's kind of tough. I don't know. But Baron Corbin may be your next Mr. Money in the Bank. And if that's the case, he might be the next person to win the WWE Championship. So for anybody who also has Baron Corbin as their one to watch, like we always joke about that Shawn did it the 1 year, and then it kind of didn't come to pass quite at that time, but eventually he got to a point where we all liked him and stuff. But you might want Baron Corbin to be your one to watch again, maybe. So we have two other topics to talk about, and they're basically the flip side of each other. One of them is somebody leaving WWE, and the other one is somebody joining the WWE roster. Tajiri is no longer in WWE anymore, according to a recent interview. He says that he didn't really have too much of a standard contract, really. And he had his injury, and they sort of reevaluated everything, and that this is the best thing for him. And that he, didn't leave with any kind of negative repercussions or negative feelings or anything. It's all good terms and stuff. And if they want him to come back, he'll come back, that kind of a thing. And basically, I'm assuming that this is a case where his injury scared them off. And he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's somebody who is a veteran and he's been around for a long time. And right at the beginning of him coming into the whole 205 Live roster, he got injured. So maybe they looked at that and said, maybe it's not the best idea for him to be wrestling on all the circuits and to kind of be somebody that we depend on a little bit for the future of this, because the high-paced style of the Cruiserweight division is something that they've toned down a little bit since the Cruiserweight Classic. And of course, even that wasn't anywhere close to what the WCW version was. That's the thing that we all want back again, but it's probably never going to happen. And with somebody like Tajiri, even though they have somebody like Brian Kendrick's a little bit older, a little bit younger, and Tajiri isn't, this is going to sound kind of mean. It's not supposed to be mean, but he's not the same type of star that you can build around as Brian Kendrick because of the language barrier and because of just character reasons. Brian Kendrick is a character that is heavily dependent upon microphone skills, which is something that a lot of the other cruiserweights don't have. And Tajiri has essentially none. Akira Tozawa actually has even more, it seems. And you know what? Come to think of it, they really kind of just replaced Akira Tozawa and Tajiri, and not as a racist kind of a thing, but they replaced it with what I think is most likely a better feud than what we would have gotten with Tajiri. Because Tajiri and Brian Kendrick probably would have just been, here's two of the older guys clashing. And the Akira Tozawa feud is based off of the mentorship role. So you've got Tozawa is the younger guy, and Kendrick thinks that he should be I'm going to teach you some lessons and everything. You couldn't do that with Tajiri. And you couldn't even have Tajiri be the one that's trying to teach lessons to Kendrick, because Kendrick is a veteran, so that wouldn't be as applicable. So I think we actually got something better in the long run. Although it sucks that Tajiri's not in there anymore, because he is somebody who has something to offer, and I'd like to see him back if they get a chance to bring him back, even if it's just a little bit here and there, just kind of, they bring in Sean Maluda once in a while to wrestle. I don't know why they haven't signed him yet, and maybe Tajiri can be one of those guys. But the last thing for us to talk about is the flip side. Tajiri's left WWE, somebody else is coming into WWE, and that's TNA's Crazy Steve of Decay, who honestly, this is probably not the best subject for us to end off this discussion on. And that's because I really know nothing about him at all. I have not seen a single thing of Decay, not a single video. I do not know anything that he did before TNA. I don't know how tall he is. I don't know how much he weighs. I know a basic idea of what he looks like because I have to do images for this kind of stuff. So I know that he does a clown kind of facial thing. He's carrying balloons in the pictures that I'm coming across and stuff. And it's essentially sort of a cross between the old Abyss character and the Mankind type of stuff, and the Oddities and Sanity and the Wyatt family and whatnot. But I don't know if he's going to carry that over, and I don't know if he's got some kind of indie background that isn't like that, where maybe he's just going to come in as Steve Johnson or something. What's his real name? Now that I got to look that up just to see if there's some information about that on Wikipedia. I probably should have checked Wikipedia ahead of time. Steven Scott is his name. So maybe he'll come in as just Steven Scott, or they'll change his name because that's kind of bland, to something sort of I don't know. Well, you know what? I wouldn't have guessed Aleister Black when it comes to Tommy End, so I probably am not going to guess anything with Crazy Steve, but I'd actually kind of like to see those two team up. If Crazy Steve can do some kind of a weird dark gimmick and Aleister Black can do his kind of thing, who I'm not really big on Aleister Black right now, I'd be okay with him being in the tag team division rather than the main title division. Maybe we get Crazy Steve and Aleister Black together. Kind of interesting, maybe. He's 33 years old, so he's not another one of those, like, young upstart 19-year-olds, like, what's his name? Tyler Bate. But it says he was trained by Eric Young, so maybe he'll be feuding with Sanity. Maybe he'll be joining Sanity. Kind of interested, If it's somebody who you don't know, look at on the positive side of things. You get to see and experience a brand new wrestler, and if he's good enough, the WWE thinks that they should sign him. Maybe he's great. So I want to know more about Crazy Steve, and if you have any ideas of like what I should check out or something like that, toss it my way. Let me know what you guys think about Crazy Steve. And since that's the end of our hot tags, let me know what you think about all the different topics that we were talking about here. Again, just leave your timestamps if you haven't done that already. And if you didn't, it's not the end of the world. I don't really care. And make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already to get your updates for everything else on the channel. Just do that little bell notification icon thingy. And that way you'll get some like emails and, you'll be the first people that can click on the videos and stuff. And I usually try to answer the comments at least a little bit when I'm uploading them and everything. Sometimes I don't get around to it, but hey, sometimes I'm uploading it and it's like I'm scheduling it for 20 hours later or something like that. But also hit that thumbs up button and keep checking out smarkoutmoment.com itself. We have the first round of the Superstars, the Sexiest Superstars tournament, which is up and running. I had some issues with the bracket not working and the polls not working, but I fixed them all, so go ahead and check them out. The men's list and the women's list are both up on there, and I was originally going to end up doing my breakdown of it on Friday, but I want this round, because it's got the most amount of votes that we have, to go for a little bit, so I might not end up doing it until next Friday, because we do have a pay-per-view this week. Maybe I'll wait until like Tuesday or Wednesday and do it like that. I'm not 100% sure, but if you go ahead and you cast your votes now, then you don't have to worry about getting them in at the last second before if I just decide to do it on Friday or Saturday or something like that. But I'm hoping to bring that into the podcast form again because we had some fun talking about that the last couple of years, and I kind of want to do it again. So vote for that while you can. That's all at smarkoutmoment.com. And the next time you guys are going to be hearing from me is going to be the Ask Him and the hot tags and all that stuff. And our main event for this week is going to be the Payback predictions. Hopefully I'm going to record that on Friday. Or no, actually I'm not going to record that on Friday. I'm going to record that on Wednesday, either in the afternoon or at night, depending on whose schedules are available or if I just want to kind of knock it out on my own or something like that. But stay tuned for that kind of stuff because at the end of the week, we are also going to be doing our Payback post show. So those are the next couple of things to stay tuned for. And you can find it all at this channel. Isn't that convenient? So I will see you next time, everybody. Thanks for listening to episode 282's Hot Tags. This has been another Smark Out moment, and I'm being counted out.